Welcome to Booktopia TV. I'm John Purcell and I'm here with Children's Laureate, Jackie French. Welcome, Jackie.
Thank you.
Why do we need a Children's Laureate?
Okay, it's much cheaper than having a Governor General. And not only that, rather than a Governor General, we provide our own housing, usually our own food, and if we are threatened by terrorists, all we have to do is actually read them a story, and probably we're going to get out of it okay without a team of SAS to escort us. Until now, if people have wanted a patron or someone just to say thank you, you go to the Governor General and say, could you please add this to your multiplicity of jobs that you do. When I first took this job on, I thought, okay, I'm already doing as much as I possibly can. How can I do any more? What else can I add to being a laureate? And yes, I have got a couple of specific laureate projects I did manage to come up with. But, you know, it's been fascinating. In the last 6 months, I've realised the main role of laureate is simply to say to these hundreds, these thousands of people doing extraordinary things for kids, look, what you are doing is fantastic. Please, please keep on doing it. And that role of simply acknowledging how much people are doing, the extraordinary diversity of what people are already doing, and saying thank you, I think is probably the most valuable of all. But also if we can start collating some of these, because some of these are incredibly local, incredibly small, start collating them on the Laureate website so that we can inspire other people. But as I said, mostly inspiration and thanking people.
Sounds like a very rewarding job.
It's been extraordinarily rewarding. A million times more work than I thought it would be. And that workload is growing. I think partly too, the Laureate program is very new in Australia. So with most of the contacts that I have or people asking for interviews, until about 6 weeks ago, they were really asking me, not the Laureate, and I'd say, by the way, I'm actually also the Laureate. And they would say, what is a laureate? It's been really interesting. In the last 6 weeks, I'm starting to get people asking for statements for videos from the laureate. And I think the whole idea of the concept of laureate is finally starting to take off. That people are realising that whether you want a statement for National Bookshop Day, whether you want it for International Reading Hour, whether you want it for Book Week, etc., this is where you go to get a statement. Yes, rather than a Governor General.
Well, yeah, someone who's completely in touch with
exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, we already know the power of a book because we have been doing it. And again, that is also cheaper than a Governor General, because by the time we're chosen, we have been trained very well for decades.
Your output is extraordinary. I mean, the number of books that you put out and projects you've been involved with. I mean, taking on this laureate on top of all of that, how are you managing the creative side plus the ambassadorial side?
Okay, first of all, we have to dispel a myth which is perpetuated by the Children's Book Council of Australia. There is only one of me, not five. I am not 5 people. When I took the job on, my feeling really was, okay, I spend 98% of my time working for children, for literacy, for books and what have you. This will be a cinch because really I can't fit any more in. I think it's probably a bit like having triplets. You think you've had one, so look, that takes 99% of your time. Triplets can't be any harder. It hasn't worked that way. Fitting in writing is difficult, extremely difficult, where you get 85, 100 requests a day. Tomorrow I think I'm doing 9 video requests for people. In the last 2 days I have written 5 articles, 5 submissions or testimonials for people. I can't count the number of emails. In the last month I've spoken to at least 10,000 kids live. It was the Darwin Detention Centre kids last week as well. Northern Territory Minister for Education. I think I'd have to actually shut my eyes and think for about 5 minutes even to remember what I've done in the last 2 weeks. It's been massive. But in a way I really didn't expect. I think the work I have written in the past year has been far more my best. I think there has been something about getting down to the absolute essence of what I'm doing and why I am doing it. It's almost as though when they put the cloak of Laureate on your shoulders, you actually realise you need to give up to it. And I think that has been reflected in my writing as well. To my surprise, even though I've had less time, I think the books I have written in the past 8 months, since I was told I would be Laureate, are so overwhelmingly better than anything I have written before. It really is as though, at least subconsciously, I'm saying to myself, okay, you'd better live up to this. There is a lot to live up to.
Yeah, I mean, these days writers, just without the cloak on the shoulder, are being asked to do so much more in publicity themselves and in communicating what they're doing, answering emails, answering blog posts, doing all this extra writing around their writing anyway.
I think part of it, though, has been reinforcing. I mean, being a writer is often a fairly solitary thing. You're there at your desk with your computer, the editor's on the end of the phone. But in the last 6 months of so much exposure to people where it matters, it just matters so much. Have you
got any examples of what kind of grassroots, community-based events that you've been to or spoken at?
One of my favourites was actually in Queensland, and I wasn't even supposed to do it. I'd had a very, very full program. I was actually just sitting there in the library going, like that. And the teacher had brought a whole mob of kids, I think their kinders, year 1, year 2, year 3, just to see what a laureate looked like. And so they appeared in the library, and of course, being very well-trained kids, they knew what you do in the library, that you go and you sit on the carpet in front of the person who is sitting on the chair. And as a very well-trained children's author, I did what you do when kids are in front of you. I started to give them a session on 10 reasons why you shouldn't eat a book and how you can find the magic book. And I only realised 3/4 of an hour later, when they came to find out why I hadn't gone to morning tea, that this was entirely unscheduled. And yet the kids were absolutely just bouncing up and down. It just meant so much to them. In the last 6 months, I have been betting kids $5 that I can find them the magic book. The magic book is the book that means you read another one and another one and another one. And I have been betting that I can find them the magic book, and if I can't, then I will pay them $5. But I also warn them, I haven't lost the bet yet, and if they lose, they have to pay me $5, though I might be very kind and actually let them not pay. But it's true. In the last 6 months, I haven't lost the bet.
So you have kids in a library, and you
yes.
then go and search. You talk to the kids for a few minutes, and then go and search for a book that's perfect for them. Is that
no? I show them how to go and find the book.
Okay, brilliant.
Yeah. If they can't find it, I send them a list of books. And actually, the subtext of that, of course, is that there are 25 books on the list, one of which is sure to be a book that they're going to love. But it means they're really going to have to trawl their way through 25 books before they ask me for $5. So actually, maybe I'm setting myself up in 15 years that I'm suddenly going to have all of these kids saying, look, we finished the 25 books and you owe me $5. But so far I haven't paid out a cent. But the other thing I have been doing is getting all of the adults to say, okay, shut your eyes, and then to the kids, okay, find out which adult has got their eyes open. And they always say, Mrs. Connolly has got her eyes open, and then saying, who here finds books boring? And even in the most expensive schools, 30 or 40% of kids, when they realise the teachers have their eyes shut, put up their hands. And then I say, okay, how many of you love Game of Thrones? And every hand goes up, and we are talking kids as young as 8. and know their parents probably don't know they're watching Game of Thrones. They are probably watching it downloaded on a friend's machine. Now, I am not advocating Game of Thrones for an 8-year-old or a 10-year-old, but we are losing our kids between the ages of 6 and 12. We're confusing books that kids can read with books that they want to read and are going to find absolutely enthralling. Kids who want to really discuss, actually not the sex and violence scenes on Game of Thrones, but actually what person has the moral right to actually sit on that Iron Throne. They're not going to be satisfied with Spot's Great Adventure.
Yeah.
So often parents and teachers stop reading to kids when they learn to read. We give them Spot's Great Adventure to read instead, and we're losing them, and they think the books are boring. So we need to have two things. We need to have the books that kids read themselves, but we also have to have those wonderful, challenging, big, fascinating books. We need to keep reading to our kids. And also, it boomerangs. I know my father read to me and read to me and read to me. And in the last 3 years of his life, when after a stroke he couldn't read to himself, he found that his children and his grandchildren were reading to him. It came back again. But we need to keep reading to our kids and not expect them just to sit down with Spot's Great Adventure. I mean, after all, no one ever says you can't watch that TV show, you won't understand it. We say you can't watch that TV show because we know they will understand it and we don't want them to. It is so easy to underestimate our kids.
Well, my experience at home, Isabel, who's 13, just turned 14, she picked up Kate Forsyth's The Wild Girl.
Yes, yes.
And her reading life has changed.
Yes.
Like she won't go back.
No,
She's
exactly.
crossed over, and now she realises what she was
No.
talking to me about Napoleon and going up and wanted to read a history of Napoleon.
Yes, and look, we are producing beautiful children's books, and yes, look, I love beautiful children's books as an adult, but so often we are assuming because it is a beautiful picture book, it is a funny picture book, etc., that it's going to satisfy kids. And no, look, it's a bit like giving them a chisel. It's great fun, they're going to enjoy it, but it's only going to be 30 seconds. The book that will really drag them in is probably going to be a large, thick, challenging book, and that will be the book that is going to haul them into reading another one and another one. If we give them a Star Wars graphic novel, they'll enjoy it, but all it will do is make them really look forward to the next in the Star Wars franchise. Yeah. They're not going to reach for another book. And as an adult and a reader, I find that is tragic because, okay, the 30 to 40% of kids say, I find books boring, but you find the other 60% of kids are bouncing up and down, treating kids' authors as rock stars because they have actually discovered really how fascinating it is. But when you ask them what they're reading, they look like that to make sure the teacher isn't listening, and then they talk about quite the books which in school terms would be regarded as far too advanced for them.
It's been wonderful talking to you. I'm very pleased that you are a Children's Laureate. I love the views that you expressed here today. They're wonderful. And I think they should be looking at Children's Laureate for life. I think we're just putting the man
I think talking to Alison, I suspect in fact we are Children's Laureates for life, that once we are, we will keep working together as Alison and Rory are. And look, if I was just going to say one thing, and look, please to adults as well, because look, books aren't like broccoli. You do not have to eat everything on your plate because it's good for you. If a book is boring, put it down and get another one. And kids understand that, but I was actually talking to a mob of actually friends yesterday, all talking about how a very worthy book by a writer I really admire, so I'm not going to say which book it is, but how they were a third of the way through and they really didn't feel like reading anymore, and just saying to them, as I say to the kids, look, if it is boring, put it down and get another one. There is no virtue in eating all your broccoli. Don't have the pile of unread books on your table. the whole idea of a book is something that we love and enjoy and we delight in and is transcendent for the everyday life. If it is boring, put it down and get another one.
Thank you very much for talking with us.
Absolute pleasure.